So Dr. Peter Fenwick will introduce the BSMA board of members to us all now. And after that, I know on your program we were meant to show a video from Sonia, but unfortunately we had some technical issues and we won't be able to do that. But to fill that gap on the time, we'll go through some of the questions that weren't answered yesterday, that we run out of time. So I'll ask our beloved speakers just to stay around to be able to answer some of those questions, please. So I'll pass the mic on to Dr. Peters, then he can carry on with his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, all of you. You've made it to the last presentation. I think that's excellent. This is a fascinating time. Those of you who've been here for the 2 days, and even those of you who've been here just today, will recognize that the great plates of science are beginning to shift. And the idea that there may be a continuation of life, and B, there might be such a thing as a spiritual realm, and C, that the two may interact, is just coming over the horizon. I'm not sure the sun is here yet, but it's lightning. And so I think that's excellent. So today, Elsa has asked me if I would introduce you to the board of the British Spiritist Medical Association, and I'm really pleased to do that. I'm really pleased because I think that we can now start to hold medical conferences where we have something important to say to our fellow colleagues. I've spent quite a bit of my life being under the radar. I'm very good at being under the radar. But I think that now, of course, I don't have to be, and that's really nice. So the way forward, I think, is first of all to constitute the British Spiritist Medical Association. And so I think that what I'll do is I'll tell you what we are going to do. Yeah. So this talk is about an introduction to the board for you, what we're going to do and who they are, and what our timescale is. Could I ask every member of the board to come up and sit on the stage? Thank you. Brave souls. Because they're going to be our voyagers who will go out and help to get the association known and functioning. So we're going to start it up, and the aim, our first aim, is to become a charitable foundation. There are two sorts. One is a really heavy charity, where all the rules are very strict, and the other is much lighter, and it's called an ICO, and that's the one we're going for. Now, any of you have had any attention with or interaction with the Charity Commission will know that they are extremely strict. If you mention the word religion, there's no way that you'll be able to set up your charity. So we, of course, as you can see, are a charitable foundation, and our aim is education. And I think that's right. So we're here to educate people into Spiritist principles. So we're going to support and help integrative medicine, a bridge between medicine and spirituality. And what a wonderful talk you gave us this morning. A most perfect talk of the relationship between medicine and spirituality, and palliative care and spirituality. I think that was absolutely excellent. And use the mind-body-spirit concept. Mind-body concept has now come in, and spirituality has now come in, and so we're refining that slightly. So we're in association with the International Medical Spiritist Associations. They are already configured in Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Cuba, France, Guatemala, Portugal, and the USA. So what on earth do we think we would like to do? We suggest that a 3-monthly journal club would be quite an interesting way to start, because we could, in fact, get a number of doctors who are under the radar at the moment to do just that. Work with chaplaincy, that's very important. Developing webinars. Webinars, I think, is a very good way of disseminating information. How many of you have a YouTube channel? Cool, really cool. That's fantastic. Good. Well, you can say the most wonderful things. So I think we have to think about ways that we can just try to reduce the resistance to some of the ideas. And I cannot think that there would be a doctor who came here and didn't hear the 2 talks this morning, and I'm focusing on those because they're both entirely medical, and of course yours yesterday too, would not be able to ask themselves some questions. Maybe we need a broader view. Setting up research projects, not for a long time. To set up a research project, you have to have funding. Do any of you know of any rich spiritists who might fund the project? Keep working at it. Developing webinars, as I've said, videos about Spiritism, very gentle videos, I think, more about the sort of things this conference has been talking about. And then social media. I'm not good at social media, so there'll have to be some help from other people on that. And targeted at healthcare and professionals. And then we thought that it would be a membership organization, and the membership fee will be extremely low until you've signed up, and then it'll be extremely high after that. So our first step is to complete the Constitution, and we thought the AGM next spring. So, members of the board, Andre, could you say something about yourself? Just a word.
Well, I'm a Spiritist for 3 years about. I've been studying the Spiritism, but I've been a nurse for many years. I worked as a nurse in so many different settings, and at the moment I work in a hospital dedicated for people with cancer. And now I realized how important the spirituality is in all settings. You know, I work in public health, and then it can be applied in any field. You know, we tend to think that spirituality is just for mental health, is just for people dying, but you know, it's much broader than that. Why I'm not a doctor. This is a medical association. But I'm doing what I can to help to organize this, because I think there's a big light coming from this association in this country, and I think it's really needed.
Thank you very much. You've heard enough from me, so I won't give you any more. Thank you. Sylvia.
Okay, my name is Sylvia Gibbons. I am not a doctor either. I'm just a humanistic counselor and a regression past life therapist. But I've been around Spiritism for a long time, and I've joined this group because I feel I have a little bit to contribute, and so I'm offering my hard work and my dedication to spread this work in Spiritism everywhere I can. Also, being more able to be part of a group like this and in a conference like this as well, helping to organize it, helps me also when I have clients that say, oh, you know, I have voices, I have this, and they're so afraid of saying, and you know, you're not sure if you should say something to them or not about spirituality. And I think being part of this and with you all in a conference like this as well gives a sort of backup for encourage, as Elaine said, for us to say, no, you know, it does exist, there is a world out there. So I'm offering my hard work.
Thank you very much. Okay, Natalia.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be in a congress like that. And I'm specialty doctor specializing in general and elderly medicine. So I can't say better than the distinguished speakers here. I am very honored to try to help even a little bit because I think it's a great way through. And as Andre said already, when sometimes my personal feeling, if a patient knows the diagnosis, it's a cure in some sort of things. When knowledge is a cure, and if we acknowledge that we are not only with body, and there is a possibility to have something more than just that body, it can cure many things. So, again, I'm very honored to try to help a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Terry is not strictly a member of the board, but he's a helper, and he comes to our meetings, and he's enormously helpful and constructive. Terry, could you just give them a brief word about yourself? Because although everybody has seen you, I'm not sure that they understand the depth of the research that you've been carrying out.
Thank you, Peter. I'm honoured and privileged to be invited by Peter and the board to become a member of the organisation, but I have graciously declined the invitation quite simply because although I have several skills, I'm not a multitasker. I can only effectively concentrate successfully on one thing at a time, and it's for that reason that I've respectfully declined the invitation to be a member of this board, because my research and the work I do for my clients and the work I do for teaching my students, I have 70 students spanned across the UK and North America, and I have to give them the priority of my time. So when I do have time available and I can share my past experience and expertise. Before I was a psychologist, I was a conference and exhibition organiser, and if I can contribute my experience in that area, then I'm happy to do so. So thank you, Peter, for inviting me, and I will do what I can, but without having the title of Director of the Board. Thank you.
Terry, can you just tell them what your research is, because I don't think they know.
Again, this is an unexpected honour. In fact, I'm presenting my research method next week at a conference in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. But for the past 2 years, I have been recording every single case that's come to my attention, people asking me for help. Specifically, people who feel that either they or a family member or a friend is suffering from some kind of spirit interference or a curse, being affected by dark spirit or earthbound spirits. So I have a steady stream of cases coming my way, and I now have 525 recorded cases. And these cases are recorded in two ways. The essential data, the criteria, go into a database for statistical analysis and trends and demographic reporting. But every case is recorded using audio-visual technology. Every case is presented to the client with an audio recording. Some of the more interesting cases, with the client's permission, are, because they're all captured on audio-visual, the most interesting ones are put on YouTube for research and case studies. And the audio-visual recordings are an absolute goldmine of information with the dialogues between facilitator, medium, spirit guides, spirit entities, earthbound spirits, dissociated sub-personalities. They are fascinating to listen to. And of course now, with the constant flow of this traffic of requests, it's just become routine. And we've succeeded now through trial and error and through practice, working with mediums and guides. We are now able to go through a protocol and relieve a suffering person from dark force entities, what some people may call demons, what some people may call interdimensional species. And to investigate these species is fascinating. They've all been documented before throughout history in demonology. If you look at the records of demons from ancient times, from Babylon and Assyria and Egypt, they've all been documented in history, and they still exist, and we encounter them on a daily basis. It's fascinating work. So that's the nature of my work, and that's the nature of my research. And thank you, Peter, for giving me the opportunity to tell you about it. Thank you.
I think it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you.
Kind enough to let us all know which YouTube channel that is, that we can see this fascinating stuff.
Just my name, Dr. Terence Palmer.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Sueli.
Well, I'm Sueli. I don't do much, nothing to any near what the doctors presented here today. I just would like actually to thank them for the opportunity to be a little help in the kitchen, organizing the lunch, the dinner, and whenever you need them here. Next year, in 2 years' time, I'll be here again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Natalie.
And I'm just going to say, Sueli, thank you for all the little things that you do. And I'll be brief. I heard a voice in 1998, and it told me to learn medical anthropology. And since then, I've developed an 8 or 10 week course that I run in medical schools and hospitals and universities, exploring these issues that we've covered today: near-death experience, remote viewing, remote healing, babies, how babies are made. I can do a whole day on how babies are made, according to different societies. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm very interested in Spiritism, and I'm so grateful that you've invited me. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. The new Medical Spiritist Foundation. You know the members of the board, you know what we hope to do. But I must thank Marlena Nobry, who I know wanted this doing for a long time, but most particularly Elsa Rossi. So Elsa, thank you so much for your... Anybody who's presented at the symposium, would they like to come up here?
So if anyone has any questions for Peter regarding the board now, and we'll just take over use this time to go over the questions that we didn't get a time to answer yesterday. So the first question, I've got a couple questions in Portuguese. This one's directed to Dr. Elaine. The person's asking, could a person just be left an operation, is still full of anesthetic, and still be able to see themselves in recovery? So this person has had this experience, and she's wondering if it was a near-death experience. Was she close to death, or this can happen under normal anesthetic? Does it mean that she could see that? Does it mean that she was close to death? Or
I would say not. It sounds like an out-of-body experience that whoever had it had when they were under general anesthetic. Sometimes people can have out-of-body experiences when they are close to trauma as well, such as just before an accident happens, and at that point they haven't been injured, but they can see the accident about to happen.
Just read that.
I had a patient who was a veteran from Afghanistan, and he remembers being shot at and seeing the sand rise up from the bullets, but then he saw it from above himself looking down. So sometimes people can have out-of-body experiences, I think, that are triggered by the trauma of some sort of trauma to the body, or imminent trauma.
okay.
We call dissociation, don't we? Dissociation.
Yeah.
Because every person that survived trauma, they in a way use dissociation as a way to survive the pain.
It's dissociation, but it seems to be one form of that where it's very clear that they have an out-of-body experience and see the surgery. I think it's probably more common than we actually know. I think probably a lot of people have watched surgery from different vantage points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But you're right, it is, psychiatrically we'd call it dissociation.
The next question is directed to Dr. Elaine and Natalie. It's a two-part question, actually. How to better integrate faith and psychology is the first part of the question. And what is your opinion of the use of reincarnation and afterlife beliefs as a form of treatment in psychology?
Do you want to take that first? I've undergone some past life regression twice, and I think it can be very helpful.
Yeah. May I just add also that I'm not a clinician, I'm not a practitioner, but what I do is run discussion groups, and I can raise the subjects of the different faiths and what they believe and what they don't. And it's the peers in the group that create social change. It's not from listening to me as a teacher or tutor. It's people learning from each other. And the biggest conflict I ever had in running discussion groups was about the nature of God.
Can you hear? Yeah. I think one of the difficulties is our science at the moment, and a strict materialistic science doesn't really allow for religion and faith and psychology to be intermixed at all. If everything is in the brain, what's the point of faith? What's the point of psychology? What's the point of religion? So the Scientific and Medical Network now has a program called the Galileo Commission. And we chose Galileo because you know what happened to him when he encouraged people to look through his telescope. And it's been funded by the Salvia Foundation. It's been written by Harold Wallach in Germany, and it's a very, very persuasive document. What I would suggest to you, if I may, is that if you're interested, look up Scientific and Medical Network and click on the Galileo Commission report. It's really gone across the world for validation by a lot of senior scientists, and we hope that we will bring this much more to public attention and to the attention of the scientific community. So we're starting, and when we've done that, then I think psychology, religion, faith, and reincarnation, etc., will become a little bit more accepted.
Thank you all. Next question is directed to Dr. Peter, but I believe it's relevant to everyone. Would you like to speak a little bit more about people who are in a coma and the spirituality experience around that? Do we have some research or some knowledge around it? Can you just say a few words about it?
Okay. Coma and research. In fact, my initial database was 2,000 letters, which I got after a TV program, but that is 88. And the data sample was valuable because 98% hadn't heard of NDEs when they got it. So you can't say anymore people are pretending, people are thinking, because they clearly weren't. These were their experiences. Only 10% were due to cardiac causes, in fact, cardiac arrests. So you got 90% that weren't. And this has always given me a very broad view of near-death experiences. But the question is, what is the relationship to coma? I think the best one I know is one which came from Sam Parnia's work, and that was a man came into the cath unit, and as they were putting the catheter in, it stopped, his heart stopped completely, and he went into asystole. And Sam always insists on calling these actual death experiences, because if somebody hadn't done anything, he would in fact have died. Now, for some reason that I don't know, they were using the ordinary defibrillator that you find on the walls in places like this. And the thing about that defibrillator is it has a protocol which it says is of what you've got to do. So the machine was saying, clear his chest, get out the paddles, put it on it, stand back, shock. And because it's looking at his cardiac waveform, it said no result, CPR 2 minutes. And so they did CPR for 2 minutes, and then the machine said, right, stand back, shock. And that time his heart started. So we've got everything that we want. We've got his clinical state, dilated pupils, no brainstem reflexes. He was dead, that man, unless he was resuscitated. And if you ask him what his inside experience is, and not his outside one, he gives a very good account. He left his body, went up into the corner of the room, and looked back, and saw the resuscitation, heard everything, and there was another lady up there with him. Lucky guy. But this, in fact, was an angel. So he stayed there and waited until his heart restarted, and then he rejoined his body. So, I mean, you can't have anything clearer than that. He had the experience. He's able to monitor exactly where he was in his experience and its relationship to the coma process. And there's absolutely no doubt that the experience occurred when his brain was just not functioning.
The next question is for Dr. Elaine, along similar lines to what we've just had, actually. Astral projection and near-death experience. What's the difference?
Well, astral projection is really a form of out-of-body experience, and an out-of-body experience is what people experience as part of a near-death experience. But you don't have to have a stopped heart to have astral projection. So.
I'd like to comment on this, if I may.
Please do.
I have cases that I deal with from time to time, and every case is fascinating to me. But I'm going to tell a quick story now about astral projection that goes back. Well, I was studying for my master's degree in the study of mysticism at Kent University. And at the time, in order to keep my financial head above water and pay my mortgage, I was earning a living driving a supermarket truck for Safeways. And I was sat in the canteen one night, on night work, waiting to be loaded. And another driver came in. I was the only one in the canteen. This other driver came in. And he said, hello, Terry, what you doing? Looking at pornography? I said, no, I'm writing a dissertation. He said, oh, yeah, well, as truck drivers do, yeah. What's it about? So I told him, and then he sat down with me, and he made sure that we were alone. And he said, do you know, I've never told anyone this before. And some of you have probably heard that phrase yourselves from time to time. And he told me a story about astral projection. He was a young man, a single man. He used to like going to parties. And there was a party being held by friends that he really, really wanted to go to. But he couldn't because he was a night worker, a driver. He needed his sleep. So he had to go to bed on that occasion. But he really wanted to go to the party. Now, a couple of days later, he bumped into a friend of his, and he said to his friend, oh, how was that party last Saturday night? And he said, well, why are you asking me? You were there. I saw you there. And he said, well, I had a dream about the party, and I can remember seeing so-and-so, so-and-so wearing a red coat, and she was with... He said, well, you weren't dreaming, my friend. You were there. I saw you there. So he said to me, how do you explain that? So, I'm writing a dissertation on mystical experiences, so I had to go away and read up on it and do some research. And what I discovered was the work of Frederick Myers, one of the founding fathers of the Society for Psychical Research, wrote extensively about these phenomena. So it's well known to science going back to the 19th century. And there was my friend experiencing it and telling me about his actual experience. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Okay, so next question is directed to Dr. Marcelo. So it's 2 in 1. For hospital religious interventions, are you using any kind of tools, instruments or questionnaires to measure the benefits of the interventions? And the second question is, are you using other approaches as breathing techniques, visualizations, meditation, gratitude journaling, etc., as well as that? Thank you.
I guess I already responded in person for the person that made the question, the first question, but we don't use any kind of measurement instrument. One, because we don't want to interfere with the spontaneity of the action. And also because the research in chaplaincy is really a challenge. Even in North America, where chaplaincy is very structured, is very standardized, even the groups of clinical chaplaincy make calls for research on the actions, the effects of the chaplain visit on the health of the patient, on the time of stay in the hospital, etc. is really a challenge. And the second one?
Are you using any other approaches, such as breathing techniques, visualizations, meditation, gratitude journals as well?
All these non-spiritual religious techniques may be used for patients that have the 3 A's: atheistic, agnostic, and the other is people that share this. I don't know the word, but the people that share this belief. This is a very interesting options for these patients, because even the atheist and the agnostic people have some questions, inner necessities that can be satisfied with practices that has roots in religious practices such as meditation, but currently may be offered totally out of the religious context. But I don't use, because I go strictly to the Spiritist patients, but Zen Buddhist monk that participate in the coalition interfaith of health and spirituality, he uses these practices with people he visits.
Perfect. Thank you.
I do a lot of visualization with patients. I think it's very powerful, and it can be a way of giving hope as well. Having patients visualize a way of, first of all, relaxing through their body, and then there are several steps, but I take them to a meadow, and then I have them send a light down through their body, quite often times healing at the cellular level. And another thing that I do is have them imagine they're at a seashore and floating on the back of a seagull with they can see a blank screen in the sky, and on the left are problems, or there may be an issue they need to deal with, and on the right they might be curious as to what solution might pop up in the right side of the screen. That technique was suggested by Dr. David Spiegel. So I do quite a bit of creative visualization, and it's really helpful, and you can put in little suggestions for feeling confident and competent and more able to deal with the situation. And as for gratitude, I frequently encourage patients to make a list of what they're grateful for. And I certainly do it when I have couples that I see, and I suggest at times that they think of 3 things that they're grateful for in their partner, and that sometimes helps.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you very much to all our speakers and contributed much, everyone. Thank you for your participation and your questions. So that's the end of our conference this year. And I'm going to hand over now to Dr. Peter Fenwick to give you the last word.
I'd like to, hello? Yeah. I'd like to thank everybody who took part in this conference. I'd like to thank the audience. You're a really good audience. Elsa has thanked everybody yesterday in terms of helpers, but I'd like to reiterate it again myself. So thank you, all the helpers. And I think that this is an important conference. Well, of course I would, because it's the formation of the British Medical Association Spiritist movement. You've seen something created. You've seen our team of voyagers who are going to go out and help a little bit under the radar to move science into a greater understanding of who we are. So I'd like to thank our board of directors too, if you'd like to all do that. And now finally, to bring the conference to an end, we're going to have a wonderful song. Thank you so much.
this is a surprise, so it's going to be a cappella, and I hope it goes as it should. This is Gabriel's Oboe by Ennio Morricone, and the lyrics by Paulo Roland's Angeli Dei. Angeli Dei, qui custos es mei, mettimi come sum, mettimi come sum, pietate superno, Angeli Dei, qui custos es mei, mettimi come sum, mettimi come sum, pietate superno, et governa. Amen.
Thank you very much indeed. And with that, the conference is now closed.